What's going on, YouTube? Hold on. Let me get the air horn going on, y'all. Wait a minute, man. It's been so long, man, since I've been back, and now y'all see me on live. You know what I mean? I'm back finally. I have not seen y'all in so long, but I'm so glad to be back with a more official and real live stream setup. And I'm hoping that of course, I plan on improving as we get more into doing these live streams, but I am excited to be able to talk with y'all more without spending as much time on my edits, because that's really been one of the biggest issues for me in creating YouTube content. Is just the amount of time I spent editing and recording and trying to make high quality videos for y'all. So I'm hoping that now that I have a more realistic and professional live stream setup, that we can start being in touch more throughout the week, every week, man. And I'm really excited to share so much of what's been going on with y'all. So in this one, y'all read the title. I want to talk about the struggles of being a solo founder and how to overcome them. And again, in the past, we talked about some business stuff on this channel. And, I share my experience as a founder a lot and my time, working in the startup and working on my own startup. But I want to just incorporate that more because all this stuff kind of overlaps. Tech, the startup world and tech entrepreneurship, a lot of it overlaps. And again, I feel like I have so much I want to share and give to y'all that I hope y'all find valuable. So as you roll in, man, feel free to drop some comments. I'll read them off as we go through the stream. And I plan on probably being on here for about an hour. So, if you don't get to watch all the way through, it's cool. You catch the playback, and I'll also be chopping these up and uploading them afterwards after the live stream is over. But we're gonna go ahead and get right into this topic today, man. So I've got some points that I want to touch on being a solo founder and some of the challenges that come with that, how we can overcome it, right? Because again, when you're trying to run a business by yourself, it's completely a different type of challenge than running a business with other people. Now, they're both challenging, of course, but being a solo founder really can be tough from like the emotional side of things. And of course, there's the funding side of things, and there's like the skills gap and the knowledge gap. There's things you don't know. And so, but I still feel like there's a lot of perks of being a solo founder as well, too. And you can learn and grow a lot, both individually, professionally, from being a solo founder. So I don't want to knock it or, discourage anybody from doing it. In fact, I hope this live stream will actually encourage more people. And I'm starting to create more content that hopefully will encourage more solopreneurs, solo founders to get out there and keep pursuing their dreams and their ideas and what they're trying to do. So the first point I have to talk about in this stream is, as a solo founder, you have to be honest about your strengths and your weaknesses, because it's natural to want to do everything by yourself and to be good at everything. Like I definitely struggle in my time as a founder with that perfectionist mentality. I wanted to not only do everything, but I wanted to do everything really well. And the reality is just that it's not possible. Even if you could do all the different things you need done in your business at a high level, there really wouldn't be enough time in a day for you to even consistently do all those things. And so I think being honest with yourself about your strengths and weaknesses. What do you actually enjoy doing? What are you actually good at, versus like knowing what you don't like doing? Because I think that's equally important too. So you know what you don't need to spend your time on as much, or where when it comes time to actually looking for people to join you, or when you do outsource help, or you might, pay for some outside help. Either way, you want to know what it is you need the most help with. And like I said, what you don't enjoy doing, what you don't spend your time on, so you can direct and channel all your energy to the things that you do enjoy doing and that you do want to spend your time on. So I do want to get into that just a little bit and just talk about that self-awareness piece, because that's really big when it comes to attracting the people that you need around you to come in and work with you. Because people want to work with self-aware people. And if you know yourself, the better it is for other people to come in and be able to complement what you're good at doing. If you can be honest about the fact that you don't like doing accounting and finance stuff, or marketing might not be your specialty, writing might not be your specialty, product development might not be your specialty. There's so many different areas of business to consider, and it's like very, very important for you to get real with yourself about exactly what it is that you're good at and what you enjoy doing. So I think just being honest about your strengths and weaknesses is a huge thing that as a solo founder is going to help carry you a long way in terms of attracting the right people into your business when the time is right, but also you really using your time efficiently and really maximizing your time. So that was the first point that I had. Um, the next one I wanted to talk about is validating your idea in the beginning because, you know, when we have a good idea or we have an idea that we feel sounds good to us or it solves a problem that we have in our own lives, it can be so easy to just kind of take off with that idea and just run with it. To be honest, this is something that I personally did. I mean, I did go out and validate my idea and I did get feedback from other people that kind of solidified the fact that, okay, this is an idea we're solving or trying to pursue and solve for. But at the same time, you really want to ask lots of different people and talk to lots of different people about this, not just people that you know, not just people that you know for sure experienced the problem, and definitely not people that, like I said, you know personally. You want to get all sorts of opinions. Of course, you want to make sure that it's tailored to the right audience, right? So you're not just asking random people, but you definitely want to seek out the opinions of people who experience the problem or you feel like might experience the problem or benefit from the solution, but also people who aren't a fan of your solution or a fan of the problem, or maybe who don't even understand your solution as well, because you're going to get the most holistic view and feedback about your product that way. I found that a lot of the best feedback that I ever got, both as an entrepreneur and on my ideas and things like that, all came from people having dissenting opinions, people who weren't really a fan of what I was trying to do or who weren't really a fan of the solution I was trying to come up with. But those critical people and those critical conversations and that critical feedback can be so important in helping you just rethink or reframe your solution and make it better and apply to a broader audience or maybe an audience you didn't even consider in the beginning. So as opposed to just having a really good idea and running with it, because again, a good idea comes a dime a dozen, right? Every day people have great ideas. Matter of fact, all of us probably have at least a few good ideas every day that just run through our mind. Now, whether or not we pay attention to it and grab onto it and try to pursue it as a business is another story. But a lot of us have good ideas on a fairly regular basis. And so just because you have this idea that you feel like hits you and it makes total sense, and now you're passionate about it, and now you want to go, start a company, start a startup, you want to go solve the problem, make money, that's great. But I would really, really encourage you as a solo founder, especially before you spend hours, months, weeks, years of your life pursuing the solution to that problem, that you definitely take a step back and make sure that you just talk to as many people, I should say relevant people as possible, both in your network, outside your network, strangers, because this helps you develop a huge range of skills, like consciously or subconsciously. Talking to strangers wasn't something that I was really big on or keen on, and like starting random conversations with folks just because I know that, like I said, they experienced the problem. So for me, for example, I was working on an ed tech startup where I was trying to help teachers solve the problem of accountability on group projects. So the issue is that a lot of students hated group projects because they got the same grade no matter how much work they put into the project. And there was always somebody who didn't do much work at all, and then they got the same grade as everybody else. And teachers didn't like group projects because for them, when they had to grade, they didn't know who really contributed to the project versus who didn't. So I tried to create this solution that would solve that problem on both sides, for the teacher and for the students, that accountability piece that was missing. So the teacher can see who's contributing to the project and grade them accordingly. And then the students could also contribute to the project without feeling like they're doing the work for everybody in the group. So I validated this problem. There's something that I had experienced, but I also went out and validated with other people. But this led me to really being on college campuses and in some cases high schools and educational events and all these different things, talking to people that I didn't know. I had no warm connection to them. They weren't a part of my market. They had no idea who I was, but I knew that they likely either were experiencing the problem currently or they had experienced the problem at some point in their career. And so being able to, pitch my idea to them, which we're going to talk about in a little bit about why that's important, and also just articulate the value that I was trying to provide. Just that in itself is a huge skill. Talking to people, like I said, it's selling to an extent as well too. I don't want to say selling in the sense of like you're trying to do business right there and be transactional, but selling in the sense of persuading, right? And getting people to just understand the problem solution and the benefit. So the more time that you spend doing that, validating your ideas and finding different people, whether you know them firsthand personally or not, the more you do that, the more you're going to get comfortable approaching those people that might not be in your network. Like for me, surprisingly, I got very comfortable with cold approaching some people or cold emailing some people or taking a introduction through a mutual, someone in our network that we mutually knew, and then setting up a meeting with people that otherwise I would have never known, and just being able to talk to them about my solution because I really believed in it. And so again, just the habit of doing that and validating your idea is going to give you so much information that you didn't expect. You're going to look at your solution a lot differently through the lens of other people who are giving you feedback. They're going to have questions, they're going to have concerns, they're going to say things that make you think completely different about what it is you're trying to do. And then also, it's going to build your confidence in just being able to talk to people, approach people, which is going to massively expand your network as you do this over time. So, validating your idea is a huge thing. Like I said, it's very common for people to just come up with an idea they think is good in their own mind and then say, hey, I'm gonna turn this into a business. And then they go on to spend months, weeks, years working on something and not really seeing too much real traction. And that's just the worst part. It can be very demoralizing because being a solo founder is already hard in itself. You don't really have anybody to celebrate the successes with when something goes really well for you. And then you also don't have anybody to kind of pick you up when you're down or when you go through those rough days and you have those rough moments. So the more that you are able to validate your idea, again, the more confidence you will have because you get that feedback and that reassurance from others in the market that tell you, like, hey, you're on the right track. You are solving a problem that essentially I would pay for, which is another thing that I would highly recommend as a part of your validation process or validation step is talk to people about whether or not this is something they would pay for it. Because I personally found that with the idea I was just talking about with accountability on group projects, I found that teachers were willing to use a product like that, students were willing to use a product like that, and I had I don't want to say no problem, but I didn't have as much of a problem getting the value across to them and even getting pilots and getting people to use my application and all types of things. But the problem I did have was getting people to pay for it. So you see how that's two different things? Like you can get positive affirmation about your idea and people will actually be fond of the solution you have and they might think it's a great idea and they might even be willing to use it, but are they willing to pay you? Because ultimately you're not out here to just give away free value, right? That defeats the purpose of running a business. And then also you want to get paid for your time, your energy, your effort, your creativity. You want to make money not for selfish reasons of flying a private jet and doing different things, but you want to be rewarded for your time. And the best way to be validated or to validate your idea is with a check or with money in hand, right? So the earlier you ask people if what you're presenting to them is something they would pay for, I feel like the more time you save yourself and the more reassurance you give yourself. Now, there are some people who will even tell you that you should try to, if your idea is really good, or if your pitch is really good, or if you present everything in the right way, you could even be paid potentially before you even have a product or before you even have a service or something to actually deliver to the person. So, in other words, if the problem is big enough and it really is a pain for that person enough in their life, they will be willing to say, hey, I will give you money to go build this thing, or I will be your first customer when you have the thing ready. So there's a couple ways that you can also kind of affirm that somebody's willing to pay for something, but I would even say that that's the most ideal case scenario, is that if you can come up with such a compelling product, a solution to a problem or a pitch that people even tell you like, hey, I know this is just an idea and you're still working on it, but if you come up with that, I'll be your first customer. I'll pay you X, whatever it is, $5, $10, I mean, $100, $1,000, whatever it is. Just the fact that someone's willing to commit to you some amount of money for your business or idea is like the ultimate step of validation. And so really don't sleep on that phase of the startup journey where you really take that idea from your mind and you really go out and spend time validating that idea with real people, because again, it's going to save you so much time down the road, and it's going to build your confidence in what you're trying to do and the way you deliver it when you talk to people as well. So just something to keep in mind, because that's a really big deal. So moving on to the next point, be open to feedback and to criticism because it's coming. Like it's just no way around it. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming. And feedback is a blessing. It's a good thing. You know, when people give you constructive criticism or constructive feedback, you can use that to strengthen your idea or yourself as a entrepreneur, as a professional, as a person. And I know that that happened to me a lot. There were plenty of times where I went and I pitched something, and I might have been talking too fast. I might not have addressed the problem well enough to somebody, so they were confused. I might have been too verbose. I might have used too many words to explain something, that I could have just explained in this many words. So be open to the feedback that people have for you, because you'll learn over time what feedback to take versus what feedback to ignore. But all the feedback that you get really is an opportunity for you to improve, whether it's personally as the person pitching, the person running the business, or improve the product itself. Because again, even though you experience the problem, no two people really experience the same problem in the same way, right? Like everyone has their own unique perspective and perceptions of a problem and of what the solution might be to that problem. So you should really be open-minded about what people are saying as you talk to them. Make sure you're really actively listening. Don't just listen for the things that reaffirm what you already believe. Because if you do that, you'll isolate a lot of potential customers, a lot of potential users, people who might eventually be fans or, like I said, customers of your product. But if you don't listen to them and you just ignore them completely, it can be really easy to just get caught up in a silo of almost like an echo chamber, right? You're only listening to people who reinforce what you already think or what you already feel like And again, it's just not the most productive way to try to grow your business, because you can't think about the solution from your own lens for everybody in your target market, right? It's just not feasible. You don't live their experience with the problem. Even though y'all might have the same problem and you might be able to relate to the same problem, you don't experience it the way they do. So just being open to that in itself is a skill. Just being open to receiving feedback and criticism and being able to, number one, filter out good feedback from not so useful feedback. That's a skill in itself. But then also being self aware enough to be able to take that feedback and implement it and act on it and improve. That is also a skill in itself, because a lot of people are just set in their ways. And honestly, I think that's one of the most beautiful parts about entrepreneurship, is that for me personally, it's a huge personal development journey if you allow it to be, because the person that you start out as on day one as an entrepreneur is not going to be the person that you finish that business off as. You're going to grow. Hopefully, you're going to learn. You're going to change a bit. Your perceptions on things are going to change. Your thoughts on things are going to change, and so being able to adapt and learn and grow from feedback and criticism is going to just be huge for not only you as a person and again a professional as well too, because these are all professional skills we're talking about. When you're talking about running a business, those are professional skill sets. But then also your product or your service or whatever you're offering people is going to improve as well if you know how to take the right feedback from the right people and incorporate that. Because a lot of people might get feedback or receive feedback and do nothing with it, completely ignore it, throw it out the window. And again, all you're doing is potentially throwing away opportunities to get better, throwing away opportunities to improve. So again, being open to feedback and criticism is just going to be a key part of your journey as a founder. Now, the next one that I want to talk about is mastering your pitch, because man, pitching is literally a skill that so many people, I feel like, just either underestimate or don't spend enough time working on. And in reality, it's like one of the biggest parts of any business, because everything is about storytelling. I mean, it's crazy how much storytelling is a part of all sales processes. And I mean, even getting to know people. I mean, think about when you're even interviewing for a job or anything like that. You're talking about yourself, but you're also telling a story. Your resume tells a story about you, about your professional life, about your professional development, your journey. And so the way you frame that story and the points that you highlight in that story and what you want people to take away from that story, the lessons, the climax of the story, like all these things are super, super important. And pitching is not just a linear thing. It's not just something you learn one way to do and then that's it. You just master this one pitch. No, you're going to be pitching tons of different people who have tons of different levels of experience and knowledge about the problem. People's attention spans are extremely, extremely short today. So you got to be able to talk to people for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but also 30 seconds or one sentence. So you need to have multiple formats of your storytelling down about really what story am I telling? What do you want people to walk away feeling when they hear about your service or your product? When you explain the problem to somebody, first of all, how quickly can you get them to understand what the problem is you're talking about? And then how much can you make them feel that problem? Because I feel like that's a huge thing that people don't really consider too much. Like when you spend so much time working on an idea or a product yourself, especially when you've experienced the problem, it's really easy to feel like everyone understands the problem that you're talking about or what you're trying to solve. Again, I'm guilty of this, so hey, I'm not absent of having this happen to me as well. I'm saying that it's really easy when you start talking about something so much, you almost assume people get it. It's like once you say certain things, you think people are it's just gonna automatically click. And
Nope.
that's not the case. That's just really not what's happening, right? You really have to be good at getting people to really feel and internalize the problem that you're trying to solve. And then when you talk about your solution, in a way, I mean, it is almost like selling them a dream. You're almost, and I'm not saying a dream in the sense that you don't deliver or sell them something fake or fraudulent. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying you're almost selling them the most ideal solution to their problem that they didn't even know existed. But the way you tell that story and get them to feel that is going to be completely unique to you and your ability to tell a story. And then the way you tell a story is also big about how well you know the problem, the market, what people are experiencing. How well do you know your product? How well do you know what people are thinking and feeling? Because you're going to get pushback, going back to feedback and criticism, right? People are going to be looking when you're telling this story and when you're pitching, they're going to be looking for holes in it. Naturally, people are critical. And so they're going to want to poke a hole in your idea. They're going to want to poke a hole in the story, say, well, what about this? What about that? What about this? Did you think about that? So that's coming. So your ability to tell the story is super big in potentially easing some of those concerns or those questions or those criticisms, or when they come up, because of the way you told your story, you have a lot more credibility now because they know that you understand what they're experiencing. And so when you do respond to those critiques and criticisms, you're responding with credibility because again, you know your story so well that you've already thought about these things. You already understand your customer. You can, like I said, you can tell the story in one sentence, 30 seconds, 5 minutes. You can change the format that you need. So if someone wants an extreme amount of detail and they really want to get deeply involved. Well, how is this going to work? Well, how are you going to build that? How is it? How are you going to get it to people? People who have those kind of questions, you might want to have that 5 or 10 minute pitch format where you can walk them through some of the deeper, more technical parts of how you're going to deliver certain things or how you plan on doing certain things. But there's the elevator pitch, which is probably about 30 seconds to a minute at the absolute maximum. When again, you might have to cold approach a stranger. You might only have a certain window of time at a networking event to talk to a very important person, a very important decision maker, and they get pitched all the time. They get pitched multiple times a day, multiple times a week, especially when you're talking about investors and things like that. Like there are so many people who literally get pitched to for a living. So it doesn't matter how good your idea is, you are just one person out of many, 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 many people who are already pitching that person on a regular basis all the time. And it's very easy for someone who's experienced in being pitched all the time to essentially weed out good ideas from bad ideas, strong entrepreneurs, experienced entrepreneurs from not strong or experienced entrepreneurs. So again, the more you're able to tell that compelling story, the more that people are going to be willing to even listen to what you have to say in the first place and give you that opportunity to have that second conversation, that follow-up conversation, or whatever that looks like. But again, it's all going to boil down to how well you tell a story. And that all boils down to mastering your pitch. So I want to make sure that we just address that. And I wanted to make sure I brought that up because again, it's so important. And I'll end this point with this one right here, this quote. But and I don't know where I heard this from, but I do resonate with it. And it's people invest in people, not ideas. And I know that we haven't even talked about fundraising and funding right now yet, but the point is that people investing in people, not ideas. We talked about it earlier. Ideas are a dime a dozen, including good ideas. Everybody has them. But the ability to execute on an idea is very, very rare. Not many people can actually see through the execution of a good idea. And so people invest in people, not ideas, is kind of touching on that point, is that the more you can persuade or convince somebody that you're the right person to execute on something, that is what people are going to be interested in. That's what people are going to be banking on, is you as the entrepreneur, you as the founder, you as the person with the drive, the desire to go solve that problem. That's what they're banking on. Not so much the fact that just the idea is really good, because a really good idea with a bad founder is going nowhere really fast and probably will cost a lot of money as well too. So again, people invest in people, not ideas. So make sure you spend that time honing your story, honing your pitch, and that way you can make sure that when you do talk to people and you get those opportunities, that you have a chance to really tell your story and make it stick and make people think about your product, your service, your solution, or your story, or even you long after you wrap up that pitch and you're no longer in the same room as them. All right. So hope y'all find this helpful, man. I'm excited to be back here with y'all. It's my first time, like I said, doing the live stream. So, let me know how y'all are feeling in the comments, as y'all come in. Let me know how, if this is helpful, but let's go ahead and get into the next point really quick here, which is don't be afraid to get your hands dirty as a solo founder. You have to get your hands dirty, in fact, as a solo founder, because the business starts and stops with you. That's it. There's no funding to go hire other people. There is no other people. There is no co-founder. There's nobody that has a complementing skill set to you. So, going back to that very first point about knowing your strengths and weaknesses, you have to be aware of these things because the cavalry isn't coming. Whatever you're not good at, you're going to have to essentially learn, and you're going to have to do it. Now, you might not be the greatest at it, but it's still going to be up to you to learn, to grow, and to implement certain things. Like I said, like earlier, if you're not good at finance or accounting or writing and marketing, that's fine. But if you want your business to grow, move forward, progress, you're still going to have to keep in mind that you're going to need accounting, writing, marketing, things like that. So you don't have to become a total expert in it, But again, you're gonna want to develop and sharpen those skills, those areas where you know you might not be the best. So don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. So a personal example, what this looked like for me was as I was starting my startup, and it was a tech startup, right? So I was pitching an application. So obviously the whole group project accountability thing was going to be an app where people would the students would be able to actually assign themselves the tasks, and the teacher could see who committed to this task. And then when they did it, the teacher could see, okay, did they do it on time or did they not do it? So I needed an app to be able to do this. But guess what? I didn't code. So people would ask me all the time, like, who is your technical co-founder? Who's like, how are you going to build this thing? You know what I would say? That's exactly what I would say. Because I didn't know. I didn't have I didn't have an answer to that. I just knew that people had validated this idea. They said they wanted this solution, and I had to just figure out a way to build it and deliver it. But again, I didn't have the skills to go out and build the application at the time. So now there's a gap there. You either have to go raise money and figure out, okay, well, how do I get enough money to pay somebody to build an app for me? Or how do I get somebody on my team that knows how to code to build an app for me? Now, here's the thing: when you don't know how to code, it becomes a challenge because it's like, well, you need to articulate what you want in a product to a person who does this professionally, but you don't really speak their language. You don't really understand what their thoughts are or how they think or even the nature of what they do. So one of the biggest first steps for me in getting my hands dirty was really figuring out, okay, I need to be able to speak technical language and I need to be able to talk to these people. So before I ever learned how to code, I spent time just trying to figure out what is an app, like what makes up an app, how do apps work. I mean, you have to literally start from the most basic level that you can comprehend and understand, and you have to just peel that onion back, peel those layers back slowly and slowly. Get your hands dirty. Don't worry about the fact that you don't know these things, or the topic is, you might feel like it's above your understanding. I mean, for me, learning how to like coding, and then there's like mobile development, web development, application development. There's just so many different types of development, front end, back end, so many different languages that I just didn't understand. I didn't know how to decide between, is this the right language to use for this? Do I need to use, does it matter? Do I need to use this language? I had no idea. And I was starting to meet people that did software development, but it seemed like they all did different things. I meet some Python people over here. I meet some Ruby people over here, meet some Java people over here. But guess what? None of that is helping me understand how do I solve my own problem. But what you'll find, or what I found, was that the more you get your hands dirty, you have those conversations, you meet those people, you study, you read, whatever it is, take a course, however you need to supplement your skills. We have the internet today. So it's like there's no topic out there that you can't learn. And I'm not saying become an expert. I'm not saying you go get a job doing this, but there's no topic out here related to business that you cannot learn or at least familiarize yourself with. So the entire thing for me was I needed to be able to speak the language of developers so that I could at least talk to them and understand what they were saying. Then the next step was like, I need to meet developers. I need to put myself around developers, and I need to, again, I need to show them that I understand what I'm asking of them, because there's no way somebody's going to join my team or even build something for me if I pay them, if I can't even articulate to them what I need them to build. And so that was a long journey for me. It took maybe a couple years. And I eventually ended up going to coding boot camp, which I've probably seen on the channel, and all those things. And that became kind of the story and the journey. And that's even how this channel started. This channel used to be called Darian in Tech because I had went to, well, first it started as Darian the Dev, then it became Darian in Tech, and now it's just my name. But the reason that happened was because that was my journey. I was running a startup, and then eventually I got into coding by going to coding boot camp because I needed to learn how to speak the language. I needed to learn how to write the code. I needed to learn how things worked. Because you got to think too, I had to end up paying at some point developers to build my product for me. So I had to be able to know whether I was getting cheated, if they're doing good work, bad work, quality work. I had no way of knowing unless I got my hands dirty. So even if you're not starting a technical, startup that requires coding and an application, you might have a service-based business, but either way it goes, you need to get your hands dirty in the parts of the business that you don't already know. Because again, even when you get somebody on your team that does that thing, it specializes in that, or you go out and pay somebody, you doing the work yourself is going to help you to be able to evaluate, is this person good at what they do? Am I getting quality work? Am I getting cheated? You can speak their language, you can understand their problems, you can speak to the things they're going to be concerned about, the things they're worried about, and it's just going to make your life so much easier, and it's going to empower you as an entrepreneur to make better decisions, whether it's bringing people on board, spending your money wisely. All those things are going to improve if you know how to get your hands dirty, essentially. So don't be afraid to do that. Get involved and learn and grow. And the worst case scenario is that you're more knowledgeable about whatever topic it was that you dove into. So there is no drawback to getting your hands dirty. You know, again, you might use the skills later on in life. You might use them in a job or a career. Like for me, I ended up becoming a software developer, even though I had no intention on doing that. But getting my hands dirty opened up opportunities for me to get a job as a software developer and understand their world even deeper, and also help give me money to fund the company and do other things in my own life. So you never know what getting your hands dirty is going to equip you with in terms of skills for the future and for other jobs or life outside the business or startup. So in other words, get your hands dirty. It can only help you, right? There's almost no downside to doing that. So I just want to make sure that I kind of nail that point home. Now this next one is really big because this addresses the emotional kind of roller coaster and ups and downs of being a solo founder, which is really tough on a day-to-day basis, especially over months and years of hard work. Like it becomes so hard. So this next point is build a support system. And man, that's really important, because your support system today, you might be a solo founder right now, but if you're not, the people that you're talking to today or that you spend the most of your time around today might not necessarily be the right support system for you on your solo founder journey. Now, I'm not telling you cut off your friends or cut off your family. Like, it's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying is you have to get wise and intentional about who you listen to, who you spend your time with, and who you're around and who you're being influenced by, because your motivation day to day as a solo founder is going to wane back and forth, back and forth. Some days you're going to feel up here. You're going to be up here some days. Other days you're going to be down here, like you're like, end it, send me out. I don't want to do this anymore. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to go back and forth. No 2 days are going to be the same. So having a support system of people who actually understand that lifestyle is going to be incredibly important in keeping you motivated and allowing you to navigate those ups and downs a lot more smoothly, a lot more seamlessly, because it's hard. It's very hard. Like I said, you can work for 6 months, 8 months, 10, a year, and all for one big success. And that one big success is going to be amazing. You are going to be elated. You're going to be, like I said, you're going to be up here riding on cloud nine for, who knows? It could be days, a couple days, a week. It could be just that one day. I experienced that a lot of times where I worked really hard, months and months and months for something. And then almost the minute I actually got it or achieved the thing, I might spend that one day, that 24-hour period, really enjoying whatever that success was or whatever the thing was that I just accomplished. But then the very next day when you wake up, you're kind of like, all right, what's next? Because you're always thinking about the next step, the next goal, the next milestone. And if you don't have people around you that you trust and who have been there or who experienced a similar problem or who can at least relate to what you're going through, it's going to be so hard to just pick yourself up all the time and motivate yourself to be productive and be consistent with all the things you need to do as a solo founder, because it's an endless to-do list every single day. as a solo founder. Because again, like I said, the cavalry is not coming. There's no one holding you accountable. There's no one making you get up and do anything. There's no one telling you need to be doing this, you need to be focused on that, you need to be learning this, you need to be doing that. No one's telling you that. All this is going to intrinsically come from you feeling internally motivated to go out and do the thing. But your motivation is never going to be the same on any two given days. Like I said, in the very beginning, you might be as excited as you'll ever be about the thing because it's brand new. You just started and you see all the potential in the world out in front of you. You see all the money you can make, all the people you can help, how big this solution can be, this product or service, how big it can get, how many people you can help. But doesn't mean you'll feel like that on day 2 or month 2 or year 2. It changes, it wanes. It's not consistent all the time. So there's this rule called the 33% rule I'm gonna share with y'all. And what that means, or what it's referring to, is how you should be spending 33% of your time with people who are where you want to be. So these are more like mentors or people who have already sort of achieved something that you want to achieve, right? They've walked this path before and they've done it successfully. They already navigated all these things that you're feeling, things you're going through, and they are on the other side. Now, they might be reaching for totally different goals and doing different things in their life, because a lot of times you'll find that, you know, even when you do sell your startup, you exit, you have a successful company, whatever it is, a lot of times entrepreneurs are just creative people. So even once they have one success, they're already looking and they're on to the next thing to be successful in, or the next thing to start. So they might be on completely a different trajectory and trying to hit different goals at that point, but they've been where you are. So you want to spend about 33% of your time with those people who have already achieved what you want. And that way you can pick their brain. You can understand more about what they went through, how they navigated those things, what books did they read, what did they do when they hit a certain low point, what did they do when they hit a certain high point, and how they enjoy it, how they celebrate, how did they navigate the rest of their life outside of business with running the business, how they manage their friendships, their relationships, right? Family, friends, their personal life, hobbies, spirituality. You can you can talk to these people about those things, and it'll give you that perspective that others just simply can't, because they haven't been there. Now, the next 33% of the time, this rule says you should be spending it with people who are your peers. So people who are in the same or very similar boat as you, right? So other solo founders, or maybe people who have a couple people in their business, but they've been a solo founder, but you're both still at the point where you're trying to build your business and you're trying to navigate these emotional roller coasters on the day-to-day basis, right? You're just trying to grind, you're trying to get that product market fit, you're trying to find your target audience, you're trying to pitch, you're trying to raise money. You want to be around, like I said, 33% of the time, those type of people as well too, because they're right there with you. Y'all are neck and neck in the trenches, putting in the work, and you uplift each other, you motivate each other, you build each other, you support each other, and the beauty about them being on the same level as you is that you can be vulnerable and they can both be vulnerable. Nobody's trying to compete or outdo each other. You're trying to share and build each other up. You're trying to share experiences, share successes, share things that you learned and how people can maybe save time. Maybe they made a mistake they can help you avoid, and vice versa. So spending 33% of your time with people who are your peers or in a similar boat as you is super critical, because again, that's your tribe. Those are the people who are also on the same journey, likely going through the same emotions, not the same time necessarily always, but again, they know what it's like to be in your shoes. So you definitely want to have those type of people in your life as well. In the last 33% of the time, the suggestion is to spend that with people who are where you are, or I'm sorry, where you they want to be where you are. So I'm not saying they're beneath you, but they're just earlier in their journey than you are. So they haven't gotten as far. They haven't done as much. They haven't had as much progress yet, or they haven't had the confidence to go out and really go as far as you have, and what this is going to do is really show you how much progress that you've really made, because a lot of times people lose sight of how far they've come. You start your business today, and in 30 days, you can look back, and if you're objective and honest about it, there will be something you likely learned in that 30 days. If you're putting in the work and you're really working on something towards a goal, in 30 days you look back and you'll say that you were able to learn X, Y, and Z. 60 days, you'll be able to look back and say, okay, I learned this now. 90 days, 120, right? 6 months, a year. But when you're caught up in the day to day, just with yourself, your peers, or people who are above you, you might not really be able to get the same perspective on how far you've come as when you reach back to help somebody who wants to be where you are. Because the things that you had to learn and how you learned them and where you got your information and the mistakes that you made so that you could learn certain things, that's not going to be apparent to them. But you won't realize that until you talk to them. And so there are going to be people, like we said, spending 33% of your time with people who are where you want to be. Those people are giving back to you, right? If they're sharing their time with you, if they're sharing their insights with you, their life lessons or business lessons with you, they're giving back. It might not be money, but they're giving you something valuable. And so you returning that favor to people who also want to be where you are eventually is going to help you to learn and understand and appreciate how far you really have come and how much you've learned. And so I think that ability to reflect and just have that, yeah, that reflection period to really sit back and analyze how far you've really come is going to help really keep you motivated to keep going, to keep learning, to keep growing. But like I said, also, you're returning the favor. You're helping someone else achieve their goals or reach their goals, which is also going to bring you a different level of satisfaction or fulfillment, right? When you see someone else that's also pursuing what they want to, pursue and do and achieve, and you see them hit those goals. And if they come back and tell you that, hey, like, you helped me do this, you told me this, and I did that, and it worked, it's going to make you feel amazing. So that's a 33% rule. Spend 33% of your time with people who are where you want to be, 33% of your time with your peers, people who are on the same level or on the same goal journey as you, and then 33% of your time giving back to people who are aiming to be where you currently are. And then that is a great way to build a support system around you that, again, you can have sort of, all the aspects of your cup kind of being filled. You're giving back, you're learning from people who have been where you are trying to get to, and then you're also with your peers who can relate. You can relate to each other, you can support each other, you can uplift each other without the fear of like negative criticism or competing with each other too much. So those are really big things that are important in helping you just navigate, like I said, the emotional ups and downs that come with running a business by yourself. And as we wind down here, the last couple minutes of the stream, I was hoping to keep it right around an hour. So we got maybe about 12 more minutes. So bootstrap as much as possible is my last point on this topic, because I think so many founders and so many solopreneurs feel like the only thing I'm missing is a cash injection. The only thing I'm missing is an investor to come into my business, give me money to go scale this idea up, and then I'm good. I'm going to run with it. As soon as I get X amount of dollars, as soon as I get an investor, I'm good. This is going to blow. It's going to be the next big thing. Man, and I have such I don't want to say a problem with it, but it's something that I heavily kind of encourage against getting into that mindset. Because if you're the type of person who will start a business by yourself and you're a passionate solo founder, solopreneur, odds are you got into this to be just that, a business owner, to be in control of your decisions over the trajectory of the business and how it goes and grows and scales. And I think people underestimate how difficult it is to find the right investors in their business, or even to find the right investors at all. Because the minute you accept money from someone else, you lose that 100% autonomy and decision making power. You're no longer the captain of the ship, per se. You have someone in the business who has influence over your decision making. You cannot just go and take their money and continue to make decisions as you see fit. You're going to have to negotiate. You're going to have to compromise. And depending on how much equity you give up or how much ownership you give up to this person who invested, you will no longer be in control of your own destiny or fate or business overall. And then as you get into multiple investors, or even if it's just one investor who gets enough ownership in the company, you essentially can end up working for that person. So in essence, all you really did was give yourself a job. And you have to ask yourself, like, what was really the goal of starting the business in the first place? Because if you started your own business, your own idea and company or service, product, whatever it is, but then you end up answering to somebody else about what they want to see you do and what direction they want the company to go in, you essentially really just it's no different, and it could be more miserable to give yourself a job that you end up having to answer to somebody else about the decisions of your own idea. So you came up with this idea, but because you took this person's money, now you essentially work for them and this is your job. You might have been better off, or you might have felt more fulfilled at a actual job, right? Because the feeling of knowing this is your thing, or this started out as your thing, but now you answer to this other person, that can be demoralizing for a lot of people, a lot of founders. That's not why we started this. That's not why we get into entrepreneurship. And I tell people all the time, finding an investor or a co-founder is just like finding a spouse. It's just as difficult as finding a spouse, because you have to make sure that your values and your vision for that company or that brand or that product, that service are completely aligned. Y'all have to be seeing the same thing down the road. Now, you might have differences about how you get there, but y'all need to be aligned on where you're going. Because if not, bad things can happen, to say the least, right? And so I just think that as solo founders, it's so important that we keep in mind exercising all the ways that we can maintain that autonomy, that decision making power over the business. You're going to make mistakes. So it's okay. Don't worry about making, a mistake and thinking that it's gonna ruin, the entire business, because you always have a chance. Not to say you can't, of course you can, but in many cases, one decision is not going to ruin the entire business, and you can use it as an opportunity to learn and to grow. Now, it might be tempting to feel like, okay, well, if this person invests in me and they have all this experience, they have this network, they have all these clients, or they can help me distribute my product or my service, then you're just going to automatically be successful. But again, that person is not as invested in the idea or in the business as you are, because it's your thing, right? So they're going to see an opportunity to make money off your ambition, off your hustle, off your grind, off your dedication, off your enthusiasm. And they are there for just that, the return on your hard work. So, with that being said, not to say that taking money from an investor or bringing a partner in is a bad thing, but again, it's not something that we should be thinking about, I feel, as solo founders early on in the business. And in fact, you know, I think a lot of people focus on trying to get investors or trying to attract investors long before they even have a solid business underneath them, a solid business plan, a solid business foundation. And the funny part about this whole investment thing is that when you don't have a solid business underneath you, you'll find a lot of founders run around all over the country trying to find investors to invest and trying to pitch them and cold emailing and going to events and trying to network and rub shoulders and do all these things, because they essentially are, in so many words, like, they're kind of desperate for that validation and funding from somebody else. But the reason they are is because they're not making money. And the minute you start to focus on real tangible traction and making money, and figuring out how to continually get people to pay you for your business or your product or your service, that is when you will start to see that not only will it be easier to attract partners into your business, but investors will also be attracted to your business as well too, because you have a solid business foundation. You have a solid business model that works, that makes money, that's duplicatable, that's scalable. But those are the things I think people, especially solo founders, don't focus on enough early on. They want to jump directly to the getting the investment, getting the money from somebody else's pocket before they figure out how to get people to actually pay them for what they're trying to do. And again, the more you figure that part out, the rest is going to take care of itself. And you would almost be surprised, how much more seamless and easy it'll be to attract people to your business and to join you and partner and help you scale and grow when they understand that you have figured out how people are, willing to find and pay for this product or service, versus you trying to go out and think that someone's going to just take a good idea and give you money and then they're going to figure it out for you, which is generally not the case. So um there's many reasons to explore all the options that you have when it comes to bootstrapping, right? There's so many different ways. There's grant funding, which you don't have to pay back, and there's family and friends round. There's crowdfunding, and there's a ton of other ways that you could potentially raise money for yourself. There's even business lines of credit, and I'm not saying that credit is the necessarily the best solution, but it's a viable solution to funding your own business and maintain that autonomy, that decision making power, and that control over your business and where you're going and the lessons that you're learning, versus having to be at the direction of somebody else and the mercy of somebody else and what they want you to do. So I just want you to keep that in mind as a solo founder as well too, that taking outside investment is not the only way to grow and scale your business. And it's almost always more worth figuring out the business model itself and what do people really want and are they willing to pay you for it. And that goes all the way back to one of our earlier points about validating your idea. The sooner you can get somebody to say, I will pay you for this, or better yet, the faster you can get somebody to actually give you money in exchange for either you delivering that product or building that product or solving their problem, the better chance you're going to have of getting more customers to do that. And you're going to figure out the traction piece of like, how do you continue to make that happen? How do you turn that into a system or a process? And then the more you figure those things out and you take your time doing that, the rest is going to just fall into play. So I really hope y'all found this helpful. We're just about to hit the hour mark. We're at about 57-ish minutes right now. So I hope y'all enjoyed this. If you couldn't join for the live stream, it's okay. I appreciate y'all. Those who could pop in, leave a comment. Let me know what y'all think about this. Leave me some thoughts as well, too. I mean, what's been your experience as a solo founder? What are some things that you struggle with? What are some things that you'd like to talk about again? Because I feel like, honestly, I might be talking about this a lot more now. Like, I could talk about this all day. There's so many different things and lessons that I've personally learned that I just hope that I can share and help somebody else stay motivated and encouraged to be a solo founder and to stay motivated, because it's a challenge and it's tough, but doesn't mean we can't overcome it. So it's Darian Stevens, y'all. I appreciate you for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next live stream. Peace.